Hi everyone, this is Carol Keller, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, coming to you from Illinois in the United States. So glad that you can join me today. I'm excited to show you a brand new bundle that's just available today from Stampin' Up! But of course, as a demonstrator, I had the opportunity to order it early, as we usually do. And so I'm going to share it with you today. I'm going to share a card that I made and actually a second alternative that I did. So we will get started, and I will turn the camera around. All right, so like I said, I'm going to talk today about a new bundle that's exclusive to Stampin' Up, of course, and that's brand new today, brand new, available to customers today. It's called the Quite Curvy Variety Bundle, and it consists of 2 items that you are going to see in the January to June mini catalog. One is the Quite Curvy stamp set, photopolymer stamp set, and it's got several sentiments that are curved, and you'll see why when I show you the beautiful dies that go along with it. So the sentiments are meant to line up with the dies, most of them, so I love that. And then we have dies to cut out this stamp and the birds, all of the birds, and this one cuts out the flowers. Plus we've got a couple little extra ones for embellishments, some leaves, and these leaves over here, and something just to pretty them up. So we're going to use some of those today. So those 2 will be available as a bundle in the January to June mini, but they're included in the current bundle. Also included in the current bundle is a second stamp set called Curvy Christmas. So again, it's got some of those curvy stamps that are going to line up with the dies that I just showed you, and some Christmas, beautiful Christmas paper. It's called Classic Christmas. Here we go. Beautiful papers. Shaded spruce and cherry cobbler, and I believe Sahara sand is the other one. And then here's the other side, just beautiful designs. But these 2 items are only available in this bundle, only for a short time while supplies last. So if you get the bundle, you get these. These will not be in the January to June mini catalog. So it's a fabulous, fabulous set to work with. And let me show you. Oh, and I will say we are also using the sentiment from Pattern Play, Fill the Day with All Your Guilty Pleasures. We're going to use that for the inside of the card. So you will see that in a moment too. But with no further ado, here is the card. This is the card that I will be making for you today, using again the Quite Curvy stamps and the curvy dies. So I will put that here so that you can see it, and then we will get started. So I started off with my usual Whisper White card base, typical A2 size, but instead of stamping on it or doing any of that, the first thing we have to do actually is to cut out a section of it to create our curve. So this is all I did. I pretty much eyeballed where the halfway point is in the card, and I laid that on my Stampin' Cut and Emboss, and you can put it in this way. It's the Stampin' Cut and Emboss is 6 inches wide, so it's wide enough to fit this, because obviously it won't fit in this way. The card has to be this way, but it will fit just like this with plenty of room. And so then, by the magic of Facebook, when you cut it out, it looks like this. And so you can see too, there's a ridge. Hopefully you can see that on the camera, but there's a ridge that tells you that it's going to cut on that line. And so it won't on the top part, just on where that ridge is. So I laid that down and cut it out. So that is step number 1. Isn't that pretty? I just love the detail. I thought that was really pretty. I decided we would do a birthday card today. And then what I did for the next step was to cut out Highland Heather cardstock, and this is half of that A2 card size, so it's the card front size, which is 5.5 by 4 1/4. And so I'm going to just put some multi-purpose liquid glue on the back, and we're going to start putting our card together. And you know I like this one because it's forgiving when I'm working with something that goes the length of the card. So all I'm doing is kind of butting it up against where the fold is and pressing it down. Just make sure it looks good on both sides, which I think it does. And so we've got our card base all ready to go. And next we're going to do some stamping. We'll stamp the sentiment, which I have already set up. It says, wishing you the happiest of birthdays. And I'm grabbing again my Highland Heather ink for that. Julie says, does my glue tip ever get clogged? It does not. It does not get clogged. It really, you know, as long as I put the cap on right away, I don't have that issue at all. All right, so inking up. And then again, it just follows the line of the curve. I always do this, of course, and I don't have my light on today. That's part of the problem. Let's see if I can fix this. Can we get it lined up again? I tend to forget. Oh, good, that worked. Love photopolymer. I tend to forget. I don't know if you can see, but there's a split in the table right here, and I have to stamp on one side or the other. I think I need to move my spot down so that I don't have that issue. But with the photopolymer, guess what? I fixed it. So glad, because you know, the pressure on camera. But I did it. All right, so that is, oh, and while we have the Highland Heather out, I'm going to grab the stamp from the pattern play set that we're going to use for the sentiment inside. Fill the day with all your guilty pleasures. And again, almost did it again, move it to the side so then I won't have that issue. The other thing I could do is put down my piercing mat underneath, and that would take care of the problem too. If you're using a plastic table, if you're stamping on a plastic table, you really need that, because the surface isn't level like it is with wood, and so that does create problems. So maybe I'll just have to start using it all the time. All right, next thing, we're done with Highland Heather, and we're going to pull in the pool party. And we're going to stamp the little leaves there, just a tiny little stamp. And we're going to stamp it, because we need our little bird to have something to stamp on. So we stamped it one way, and then re-inked it, and then stamped it the other way. And I'm going to also do that on the inside. As you know me, I like my finished cards. And we're going to do the same thing on the envelope. Okay, let's pull the envelope. Gotta have it finished and looking professional. All right. Actually, I did that one backwards. No one's gonna know. And I think I did it on the back too. So we'll do it on the back. All the little details that make the card special. All right. So that is our leaf. And then I use the smoky slate, or I'm going to use the smoky slate for the bird. I used just Memento Black, but I felt like it was a little bit harsh, and even for the stamping of the flowers, which I'll show you in a minute. So for this one, I'm using smoky slate, because I think that's going to give a little bit of a softer look, and it helps when we're coloring to make it look a little more no-line. And the bird, I actually chose one that goes the other way for the front. There are 3 in the set, so you can choose what you want, but I thought it made more sense to have him pointing towards the sentiment. Oh, isn't that cute? And I do like the gray better, don't you? So I'm going to do that also on the inside. And I think on the back of the envelope. But on the front, and I'm not going to do it now to save time, but on the front I'm going to use one of the birds that goes in the other direction, because I think that will look better. But we'll do that later. That can be later, because now I want to get to the fun part, which is the coloring. So I stamped. You can use actually the scrap that's left over from when you cut off the bottom, and then stamp your flower stamp, flowers and leaves, on there, and then run it through your die cutting machine. And that's what I did. I cut with another scrap, obviously. I cut out 2 of those, and I already colored 1 so that it wouldn't take up so much time. But I do want to show you what I did. So again, I stamped these in smoky slate as opposed to here where I had stamped in black, because I just felt like that softer look was better. And what I did next was I grabbed my, we'll start with the flowers, Highland Heather, and for this I normally use the wider tip, but I did use a lot of the smaller tip for this one because the flowers are so small. And I am going to have to add some light. Yes, that's much better. Now I can see what I'm doing, and I bet you can see better too. So I'm just coloring in most of the flower with the Highland Heather, but the dark part, or the part that's up at the top, I'm actually going to use the dark Highland Heather. This is light Highland Heather for our wonderful Stampin' Blends. And again, I'm using the smaller tip because I've got a little more control. And you definitely want to do that when the flower is this small. So we are almost done with the light Highland Heather. And then, whoops, a little bit more here. And then we're going to bring in the dark to add a little definition to the flower. Absolutely wrong end. Want to use the small end. And again, the thick end will work, but you just won't have the control, so it's going to end up getting kind of messy. So if we use the small tip, I'll go back and do that for all of them. Have a little definition there with the other part of the flower. I like it. The first one I did, which was this one, I did the dark for the flower and the light for the little top petal, so you can see the difference. Either way is fine. It's personal preference. And then I used the dark Pool Party for the tiny leaves. And I didn't use a more traditional green because I thought this one is in the subtles like the Highland Heather is, and I just thought it would be a little softer look. All right. And then I went over the stem as well. And I'm going to make some definitions in the lines on the other flowers and the little curly Q. There are a couple of those on here. And you can see it goes pretty quickly. And I can go back if I feel like I don't have enough definition. I can certainly go back and add it. But I'm pretty happy with that right now. And so then last but not least is our light Pool Party. And I'm going to use that for the stems and the piece that goes underneath the flower, and then to color in these flowers. I meant to say leaves. And it provides a little bit of contrast because the images are so small. It's a little bit harder to see the contrast, but that's okay. And of course, you know, with the blends, you can go back in and layer and add color. And just keep adding those layers and shadings. So if I find that it's too light, I may go back and do that. But the one thing you do want to make sure is that you have paper underneath. I don't know if it actually bled through because these are lighter, but you can see on the back it did. And so, you see, I had a mistake there. I had to restamp it. But keep that in mind. Like, I don't usually color like that bird. I'm just going to leave him the way he is, because it could show on the back. Although I guess for this not, because we've got the Highland Heather. Maybe I will go back and color him in a little bit. I forgot we have that extra layer, and it definitely won't show through the Highland Heather, so I'll think about that. But the one inside, if you colored it, you would see it on the back, so I think maybe I will leave him just like he is. All right, so all we have to do now is grab, I'm using my multi-purpose liquid glue again, or I would recommend that or glue dots rather than the tape runner, just because the size of this varies, the width of it, and you don't want the adhesive to sort of peek out the ends and make the front of the card sticky. But all I did was lay it again, kind of going along the curve of the card, and then lining up the next one. So if you're not kind of paying attention, it looks like all one flower. Did you think it was all one strip when I first showed the card? If you did, then whoops, upside down. If you did, then I fulfilled my mission, which was to make it look like one continuous layer. So, and that's it. I didn't realize that we would be that fast today, but we are. The card is finished. All right, isn't that cute? I love the colors. I'm a purple girl, as many of you know, so I do love the colors. But I wanted to show you, as I said at the beginning, a variation that I did using colors that I wouldn't normally use, but I wanted to do it a little differently. For this one, I tried taking the extra piece of cardstock and die cutting that instead of so the card base inside is all white, and I just layered it over. And my thought was that I could then cut the extra strip again, what was left over, which would be this piece. I could cut it again and make two, but what I realized was it's oriented the wrong way, so you can't do that. But what you can do, because see, you would have to do it like this, and then there would just be a small amount of space, because if you do this, if you lay it down this way, that's why I was showing you the cutting line earlier. If you lay it down this way, what you get is this, a little strip. And that can be useful too. That can be a little accent on a card, but that's what happens if you just layer it again. That's what I did, was just lay it up against here and cut it just to see what I got. This is what I got, was this strip. So you can make strips like that. You could use the rest of it that way, or you can just cut it out from the card. And I think I like this one better. And then, whoops. And then when you try to line up the stamp, it just looks a little bit better going this way, I think. And the flowers. I like this card, but I don't like it as much as using the die on the card front. But the same thing, and I just used more than one color. I believe this is light and dark Calypso Coral, light and dark Daffodil Delight, and light and dark Granny Apple Green for the flowers. And on these, I used just the light Granny Apple Green for the piece that goes underneath the flower and the stem, and I used the dark Granny Apple Green for all of the other ones. So either way, like I said, it's kind of personal preference. I again did the lights and then the dark behind, because I liked that look better, but actually I like both of them. I like both of them, and I may go back and just color this in a little more, because I think it will be okay with that nice thick piece of cardstock behind it. I may add a little more color and a little more depth. What do you think? Do you like it? I almost like it better with the definition of the black versus the smoky slate for the flowers, but for the bird, I like the bird and smoky slate. So maybe if I did it again, I would use this and this. What do you think? Post in the comments. So it's, again, personal preference, whichever you prefer, whichever you like better. Obviously, there's no right or wrong, but I do think, like I said, it lines up better this way with the stamps. Or I could have maybe moved this over here and it would have looked okay. And the photopolymer stamps are able to be bent into different shapes, so you could play with that a little bit. I'm going to show you one that's not stamped, so you can see what I mean. But like this one says, "Thinking of you makes my day." And it's already curved, but you could play with it a little bit and get it more to the curve of the shape that you have. There is still that wiggle room to do that, so that's another option as well. All right, so that is our card for today, or our cards. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope everyone has a great day. Next week, I am going to make a card. If I didn't say this already, I'm going to make a card with the Curvy Christmas stamps in that designer series paper that I showed you at the beginning, so that you can see kind of those, how they're used as well. And in the meantime, have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.